you have a problem with the MVP
I do.
order?
I do.
Your boy's not high enough.
I do.
Yeah, and where the fuck is Anthony Davis?
Wait, he's the
guys are
9th
ninth
seed,
seed.
bro.
But Luka Doncic is here.
You're cooking.
Luka Doncic is scoring or assisting on 57.8 points per game
legend.
this
Yeah,
season,
actually,
which
you know
is
what?
He's a legend.
on
You're not
pace
cooking.
for the most in NBA history.
Yeah, I absolutely cooked.
That was
the
actually I had a
garbage man.
question. I wanted to ask you, like, put the trolling aside.
I don't troll.
No, I'm saying like, I'm saying because we got fun in Discord. and
Okay,
whatnot,
yeah.
Tatum versus Mitchell. That's
No.
what you want.
You, like that tweet you saw where like they were saying like Tatum shouldn't be MVP because
the net rating shit.
Yeah. Do you think that is that players that are playing at a high level but they are on a great team should be hindered in the MVP conversation?
I mean, you know my answer. Jayson
That's why I
Tatum,
said no
I don't
trolling.
think, listen, realistically, I think 4th is probably the highest you could put Tatum because I know the Bucks are struggling, but Giannis has been sensational. I mean, that loss against the Grizzlies the other night, he shot like 70, 80%. They still lost. It's not his fault. What Jokic is doing, what SGA is doing, winning just as much. Really, the only thing knocking Tatum is his shooting isn't the most efficient. You know, he's like 60% true shooting, which is still pretty damn good. But you look at a guy like Kawhi, who's like 63, 64%. But right now, I mean, Jayson Tatum and the Celtics, they've been killing the NBA. They have the highest net rating in the league. They're at like plus 10, plus 11. And when he is off the court, their net rating is still super high. It's like plus 7 or plus 8. But it just goes to show the rest of the team is really damn good. And people have this back and forth with Boston where on one hand, they've been labeled a super team. And on the other hand, nobody thinks, I shouldn't say nobody, but it's been a popular opinion to discredit Jayson Tatum in the MVP race. He's been a borderline top 10 player in a lot of people's eyes. People don't like Jaylen Brown. Straight up do not think he's that great of a player. I think if you ask around, no one's putting him in the top 15, maybe not even the top 20. Porzingis, I think everyone is acknowledging how great he's been this season, but he was great individually with Washington last season, but that was on a losing team. He came in and fit perfectly. And you also had guys like Drew Holiday, who's having his best shooting season of his career. So it's been tough as a Celtics fan because on one hand, we've been labeled a super team. And on the other hand, I feel like no player individually outside of like Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis has really gotten the credit of how well they're playing and how they've adjusted to their roles and kind of sacrificed because Tatum put up 30 last year. We've seen Tatum put up 30. He put up better raw numbers than SGA is doing right now. He put up 30, damn near 8, 9 rebounds. The efficiency probably not the same and was winning just as much and not more, but he wasn't number 2 in the MVP ladder last season. So I do think some of it has to do with how the Celtics are perceived as just this overwhelming juggernaut. They should be, what are they, like 42-12 or not 42-12, but 38-12, something ridiculous.
Is Tatum top 3 though?
He's not.
I'm saying last season. Was it Giannis?
No, he wasn't. It was Giannis.
It was Embiid,
Joker,
Jokic, so
Embiid.
number 2.
Because I would say if
I think
Embiid,
they're 42-12.
I didn't even say that because if Embiid was healthy, Embiid would be 1, Jokic would be 2, SGA would not be top 2. I only say that for that.
43-12. So they're
Nuts.
they've met or exceeded expectations, and it still hasn't been enough because the team's just super loaded.
You guys are amazing.
It's tough for him. Like he has to put up Luka-esque numbers like to really be in an MVP conversation.
4 is strong. I disagree slightly.
So you think 5 is the cutoff point for Tatum?
I think.
So you don't think he should be over Luka in MVP conversation?
You think Donovan should be higher?
I think
SGA.
there's 6 players on the MVP voting in the West. You know, there's SGA, there's Ant-Man, KD, Luka, the Joker, and Kawhi. I think when you talk about MVP, you talk about most valuable player, you talk about adversity, you talk about who's had to deal with the most adversity, who's been able to put up the best numbers, you know, talk about who's been dealing with injuries to his team, whose team is inflated when they're off the court.
Sounds like only one guy.
I understand Giannis being in that perspective, you know, him being in that conversation as an MVP. But Donovan Mitchell is the number 2 seed in the East. Donovan Mitchell has not had his 2 stars on a consistent basis this year. They've lost 2 games in like their last 20 games. You know, he's been across the board better in every statistical category in terms of the raw numbers. You know, Donovan Mitchell has improved on defense. Donovan Mitchell has improved in the playmaking department. Donovan Mitchell has carried this team on his back, of course, with some help from the role players and Jaren Allen. But MVP, Donovan Mitchell, I think, has been the MVP in the East. I think he's been, like, I don't think nobody should be ahead of him in the East, outside of Embiid, but he's hurt, of course.
What about Mr. Brunson?
I think they have similar arguments, because Randall went down, and then OG's been down. So it's going to be tough to see how he transitions in that department.
They're on a 4-game losing streak.
But I think what Donovan has been able to do for a little bit of a longer stretch, and that he's been able kind of to been the primary offensive engine for this team. Not having your other guard is tough. And I think dealing with the injury to one of your best defenders, once again, like you mentioned, bringing in new players coming off the bench, being more creative on the defensive end. I think Donovan is ahead of Brunson. I wouldn't hate Brunson being over Donovan because Brunson's been equally
Would you have
great
both
this
of them
year.
over Tatum?
Yes, because they've dealt with more. I think.
But I did, coming into preseason expectations, did you think at the All-Star break the Celtics would have like a 3-4 game lead over everyone in the NBA, 6-game lead in the East? Be 42-12?
Not 42.
They're on pace to win like
12.
65 games.
I think you guys. I don't think I'd have projected 42. But if you ask me if the Cavs were going to lose 2 of their best players and still be the number 2 seed in the East, I would have told you no, because everybody counted them out when they lost those 2 guys. The fact that they've climbed up to number 2 and they are 5-6 games behind you guys, who you guys are the best team in the league, I think that looks a little bit more impressive. And not to say Tatum shouldn't be on the list. Tatum is a top 10 MVP candidate to me, but I think what Donovan Mitchell and Brunson have been able to do with the adversity, the lesser talent, I think it's a little bit. And even then, Jalen Brunson just got more help at the deadline. So, I think for Mitchell, though, just speaking solely on him, because I think he's been hindered the most on his MVP ranking. I think, the Joker and him don't have the same case, but when the Joker won MVP as a 6 seed, he got the benefit of adversity. He was missing his players. I'm not saying it's the same case, but I think Donovan should get a little bit of adversity. He's missing some of his key players, and even then they're back, and he's still, the engine of this team.
And the one thing where I will give credit to Jokic is it has been pretty consistent for these last 4 years, where you take him off the court, the Nuggets aren't a respectable team. I mean, he is the Denver Nuggets. His impact is always felt when he's on and off the court. It's just different when you're playing against the Nuggets and Jokic isn't on the court. This is when you want to take advantage. And then you see it becomes a tight game. Jokic comes back on the court, and they're able to settle down and, of course, end up winning the ball game. I think Jokic is the MVP. I think that this poll is going to be right. It's funny. Last 2 years, when we get to this poll, the winner of this poll has not been the MVP. I believe 2 years ago, or last year, more importantly, it was Jokic as the favorite to win it, and then Embiid ended up taking the title home. And the last one before that was the same way. But, I mean, you understand his impact. You understand that the Nuggets, we've talked about their depth. It hasn't been that great this season, but he's been asked to do more as a scorer this season. He's done that, obviously. The playmaker that he is. I think Jokic, deservedly so, should be number 1 on here. I do think it's funny. We have a vote for Halliburton and Sabonis. Halliburton, deservedly so. I mean, you understand the Pacers really aren't that great of a team. But again, Anthony Davis and his impact on the defensive side of the ball, on top of what he's giving you offensively, availability too, where he's been the healthiest he's been as a Los Angeles Laker.
Where would you put him?
In that conversation with the Kevin Durant, Halliburton, and Sabonis, I just would like to see his name on here for that idea that, again, he is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. When you look at the favorites to win right now, he's not even top 5, which is insane to me.
Would you take Edwards off, put KD up, and put AD up?
With the efficiency that we've seen from Kevin Durant, that argument is fine. But again, Anthony Edwards is on the team with the best record in the Western Conference. Need to respect Anthony Edwards in that regard. But I only put him in that conversation with the KD, the Sabonis, and the Halliburton because these aren't the top teams in their conferences. But you still give these guys that respect because they're playing high-level basketball. Shit, I can make an argument that AD's been arguably better than all of them outside of maybe Kevin Durant because Kevin Durant's efficiency on top of defense that nobody talks about when they talk about Kevin Durant has been really good, but Anthony Davis's impact on both sides of the court has been strong. I think this list is fine, though. Kawhi Leonard, whether you like it or not, me included, he has been a top 5 player in the league this season. You could argue that he could be a top 4 candidate, really. I think Giannis is a little bit high for the idea that the team is a little bit underwhelming. They are top 3 seed, but they aren't that dominating team that we were anticipating, although he is dominating. Luka Doncic, deservedly so, deserves to be in the top 4. He's been at a different level. SGA deserves to be in the top 4. He's been at a different level. But Kawhi's efficiency, his availability, the way that they've been able to play winning basketball. I mean, Kawhi Leonard on both sides of the court, his impact. He's been that player. It's just been a matter of health. So to me, that'd be the only thing. This list is fair. Jalen Brunson gets the recognition that he deserves. I'm glad that he was the number 1 guard in the East on this list. So to me, I thought it was fine outside of the fact of let's give Anthony Davis the respect he deserves because for a while he's been the butt of the joke for the Los Angeles Lakers. A Disney, street clothes. But when it's all said and done, there's not many players that you would take over Anthony Davis, and that's the truth.
Who's your prediction to win MVP?
I would like SGA to win. I want SGA to win. My pick to win it is Jokic.
I think it's going to be Jokic, too.
I think Giannis takes it this year, but I would like SGA to win it.
So
Giannis
3-time
winning-
MVP for
The
Giannis.
Bucks are going to have a pretty huge second half turnaround because the taste in everyone's mouth around Milwaukee is pretty nasty right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like the pick. I
don't
like the pick.
know. I don't know if Kawhi is top 5 MVP candidate. I'll be honest.
Is
I
because
think-
there's too much star power.
I think
on his team?
Harden
He's averaging
hasn't.
23.
But the efficiency is
But I think Harden has
ridiculous.
been
It is.
not as equally impactful, but he's been right there in
I
terms of his
understand.
impact to the team. So I don't think I would have him top 5.
I don't know if I'm having a top 5 MVP candidate who's averaging 23 points per game.
I mean,
You know,
Jokic won MVP with
25.
Yeah, triple-double, though.
2 years. Both of them, he was
I think it was
25.
like 25, 24.
Yeah, he was in
To fact
23,
check,
and
yeah,
he was also
I'll
averaging
tell my-
triple-double.
No, most definitely. Jokic deserves it. But again, the efficiency from Kawhi, his ability to shoot the 3 ball at that efficiency. I mean, his defense too. They're playing some of the best basketball in the league.
I think Luka Doncic has been the best player in the league this year.
I'm okay with that statement.
And I think if the Mavericks finish with a top 5 seed in the West, he should win MVP. What he's doing this year is historic. It is. And I feel like sometimes we get wrapped up too much in a team's record, and we just have to look at the value portion of it because this year the Mavericks have been one of the more injured teams in the NBA. When Kyrie and Luka are on the court together this year, they have a win percentage above 600%.
You're getting this tweet off?
They're way above a 500 team. This year, Luka is making history. He's on pace to be number 1 in NBA history for a player in a season scoring or assisting on points. He's at 57.8 points per game this season.
That's dumb.
Just to put this into perspective, because I looked this up, Wilt Chamberlain, when he averaged 50 points, he averaged 2 assists.
Shit don't even
So
count.
even his season where he was averaging 50, Luka is accounting for more points per game for his team. And with the injuries to Kyrie Irving and to key role players on the Mavericks, I think if Kyrie is healthy in the second half of the season, the Mavericks will make a run. And if they are a top 5 seed, I don't see why we don't give it to Luka. I feel like with Luka, we're holding the team record against them. But when Jokic won it as the 6th seed, nobody said nothing. When Russell Westbrook won it as the 6th seed, nobody said nothing.
That was different.
It was history, but Luka this year, he's having a better season than Russell Westbrook.
No, but that was a triple-double. Like, it hasn't been done
Broke the
since Oscar
record.
Robertson.
You're right, it hasn't been done, but I'm
And
just
his
saying.
next best player was Steven Adams.
But narrative aside, Luka has been better this year.
Yeah, but you got to look at that roster, then look at this roster. Like, that roster
Victor
was
Oladipo, who ascended to an All-Star the year after he left.
You got to be serious.
He ascended into an All-Star player, one of
That
the best
roster was
in the league the year after
objectively
he left.
worse than
Russell
this Dallas
averaged
Maverick roster.
32. Are you
With no
kidding
jumper.
me?
Luka's averaging
no
35. Luka's averaging 35.
But understand it is different.
Westbrook averaged 32 with no jump shot, which means he's straight going to the rack every single possession.
Bro, and he
Who was his
broke
next best player?
Yes,
Scorer. Who's his next best scorer?
Let's see. Don't
It
wait
was
on
Victor
me to bring
Oladipo.
that up.
It was 16 a game.
What are we doing?
Okay, yes. That season was historic, but
Of course.
Luka is having a better season now. I think he's having a better season.
You could say that, but I'm saying that was the first time it's been done since Oscar.
Luka's
So now that's
averaging
been done multiple times.
All right,
He's
let's
not going to
listen
get the
to this
historic part of it.
amazing roster. Russell Westbrook, obviously 32. Victor Oladipo averaged 16. Enes Freedom, third highest scorer
Cancer.
of 14.3.
Yeah, he get 14 a game.
He was a good post player.
Yeah, good for him.
Just couldn't guard.
he's always a good player off the bench.
This team, come on.
Keep going.
Okay. Steven Adams, 11.3.
Well, the starting lineup was Russell Westbrook, Victor Oladipo, Andre Robertson, Taj Gibson, and Steven Adams.
bro.
I remember that team.
That's an ugly 5. Not gonna lie.
Nobody's saying that team's not worse. I'm not saying that team's not
Where'd they
worse.
finish that year?
They were
Sabonis,
six.
They were
I
the
think.
6th seed.
Sabonis started 66 games this year and gave 6 points. This must have been
This
his
was
rookie
this
season.
was this was
This is
younger
rookie Sabonis. But so Sabonis is probably starting out. Taj Gibson probably started in spurts.
Taj Gibson only played 23 games.
Even in that year, I thought James Harden was better that year. Like Westbrook made history.
I'm not
but Harden was
disagreeing
better
with
than
you.
you.
I just think historically, once again, like nobody's done it since
No, I understand
Oscar,
what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that
And if he's not on the team, this is a team in contention for the number 1 pick.
yeah, I mean same thing with Luka. If Luka wasn't on this Mavericks team,
Well, they have Kyrie Irving.
but Kyrie has missed half the games this year.
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
So they're probably in contention for that top pick too. All I'm saying is that Russell Westbrook won it with a low seed. Jokic won it with a low seed. I don't feel like
It's
just
not
because
impossible.
Luka doesn't finish with a top 4, top 3 seed, he should be disqualified. And I feel like people kind of have disqualified him from winning it if he doesn't finish with a high seed.
Listen, I agree. I think Luka definitely can win the MVP.
He's averaging 34 and 10 essentially.
I think historically,
with
unbelievable.
9 rebounds.
An MVP has never been a 6 seed outside of doing something like historical in NBA history. So
The advanced numbers for Jokic that season also were just...
and he didn't have his 2 players all year like that.
he
That's,
didn't.
And you're going to have SGA who's going to give you 30 on stupid efficiency as the 1 or 2 seed. Jokic,
you got
damn near
Giannis right there.
triple-double.
You know, it's tough.
I want to listen. If he's top 5 seed, top 6
Give it
seed,
to him.
he's gonna have a great case. If he's in the play-in, he might be cooked.
So, question
Yeah,
is,
no doubt.
if the Cavaliers are number 2 seed in the league, does Donovan get it?
What's the gap between them and the Celtics? 10 games.
What are we doing here?
I'm asking.
Listen, I'll be honest. Mitchell is not winning it. And it's not because he doesn't deserve to.
Pain.
It's just the last time I've seen a shooting guard perform at a uber high level and not win the award was Devin Booker. Devin Booker was on a 65 and 66 win Suns team. He was the best player on the team, and nobody considered him as an MVP.
1A1 B. No, he finished top 5
I
that
was
year.
going to say, people looked at Chris Paul as the MVP.
Yeah, it was
people were
split.
clamoring for that.
No,
it was split.
I think he
I know
finished top
people.
5 that year.
So if I seen Devin Booker win 60 plus games and have the elite output he had, if the Cavs are the second seed, Mitchell is not going to.
And realistically, I don't know if the Cavs are going to go on another 18-2 stretch for the rest of the year.
and I don't think that he's having a better season than Jokic,
Well,
SGA,
for starters,
Luka, Giannis.
like I said before, Devin Booker finished top 5 in the MVP vote. And it was a 1A, 1B thing, which you were a very big advocate of that. And most people were a big advocate of that. It was Devin Booker and Chris Paul for who was actually the most valuable player. So that's why he wasn't getting this high volume. In the sense of, in this case, Donovan Mitchell doesn't have a guy who's on a similar level of most valuable, most impactful. He's the guy. Everybody else follows his train, and then they move how they move. In terms of Boston having 10 games in front of them, dude, you have a fucking super team. So what, like,
It would have been amazing.
if you lost
Cavs
Jalen,
haven't
if
beat
you
us.
lost your second best player and your third best player, you would not have went 20-2 or 18-2 in your last 20 games.
Would have been
fact.
tough. You guys had a couple of nice gimmies in there too.
Yeah, but you still wouldn't have done it. I mean, you lose your gimmies also. So
Not really. We have the best record against teams under 500.
Yeah, I was checking,
really?
by the way. Jokic's
We do.
MVP seasons were 27 and 26.
Lost to the Warriors.
He's a legend.
yeah.
You guys aren't under 500 anymore.
we were under fire at that moment.
That
Yeah,
time you're like
I don't know,
13,
man.
14.
I just feel like
I was
sometimes
thinking of last year. Apologize.
MVPs are too narrative based. This year, I don't think is that. I think this year is an open year. But I always look back to the year that Giannis won his second MVP over
James Harden.
Harden.